Hey, how are you? I want to talk about something close to my heart today. Understanding this really helped me remove status quo bias, think for myself, and make big life decisions. So, someone once said that if you want to expect above average result, you cannot take average actions. But yet, most of the times in life, we do things in a way that we just take reference from other people, we take reference from society. So understanding this one thing has really helped me gain clarity in terms of my decision making, especially in terms of big moments. This is how I decided to, for example, not become a lawyer after studying law. This is the principle I use to make the decision on starting this YouTube channel. And this is also the principle I use in the process of helping me getting my first ever job. So the principle I want to talk about today is the difference between thinking by analogy and thinking by first principle. I'm sure this will be tremendously helpful for you as well, so let's just dive right in. In life, usually we make most of our decisions by a reference point, by referring to how it's usually done. So this is thinking by analogy. Now, thinking by analogy has a lot of pros, and I'm not against using it at all, but I'm against using it at certain specific times, which I'll get to later. But the pros of using thinking about analogy is that it's very convenient, first of all, and second of all, is usually involved with a lot of trial and error by people before us. So they save you the time of going through different bad decisions. So thinking about analogy is definitely a good way of thinking in a lot of scenarios. But in terms of the con is that if you think by analogy, you will end up doing what most people are doing. So for example, about what you have to do after uni. If you think by analogy, it will tell you to simply go find a 9 to 5 job because that's what most people have been doing and that's what's working for most people. So as you can see, think about analogy, although it's really helpful, also has a big flaw. So here comes the second way of thinking, the way of thinking that really helped me in making my big life decisions, which is thinking by first principle. So this thinking by first principle thing really has been popularized by Elon Musk in the past few years. If you Google it, first principle thinking, I bet like half of the articles on the first page of Google is going to be about Elon Musk. But anyway, thinking by first principle means breaking a big problem or just any problem at all into smaller components until you reach the most fundamental truth. So I know this sounds very abstract, but this basically means not relying on any external reference point, not relying on any external way of how it's usually done. Instead, you think about the solution from the ground up. Say you're thinking about cooking pasta for dinner. A person who think by analogy will go on Google, find a recipe, and then follow the recipe. So he does not know the reasoning behind the use of different ingredients. A person who thinks by first principle will make his pasta from the ground up. So he does not follow any recipe. He decides to use pesto because he believes that pesto sauce works best with his type of pasta, might be a linguine or whatever. He does that not because other people tell him to do so, but because fundamentally he knows that pasta goes well with linguine. So do you see the difference here? The person who thinks by analogy do things based off a reference point, which in this case is the recipe. But the person who think by first principle, he does not follow a recipe. Instead, he makes his own recipe using fundamental truth. So in terms of application in real life, this is how I have used it before. So one big problem that I faced around a year or two ago is whether I should pursue a career in law. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a law student right now. So the convenient thing, or the thing that you do if you think by analogy, is that obviously you go become a lawyer, right? Or else why would you study a law degree? So that is thinking by analogy. You go into law because that's how most people have done it before. That's what most people who do law does. They go into a law career. But thinking through first principle actually gave me a different decision. At that time, what I thought was that, first of all, what do I want in a job? And after doing a lot of introspection, I realized that I want a few things. First of all, I want fulfillment in terms of the kind of job that I do. Second of all, I realized that a high salary is not a big priority for me, as long as it can help me sustain my lifestyle. And thirdly, I want to eventually go into entrepreneurship. So holding these three fundamental truths, I realized that a law career is not something that would essentially benefit me because first of all, I do not enjoy the content of job because I've done an internship before. Second of all, it's very high paying, but then at a cost of long working hours. And thirdly, it is not as flexible as other careers, for example, consulting. So using first principle thinking from the ground up, using my own fundamental truths, I was able to make the decision to not go into law, which is what most law students would have done if they just thought by analogy. So I hope you see the importance and value of thinking by first principle. Most of our lives we think through analogy, and that's okay because you don't want to always think by first principle when you're deciding what show to watch on Netflix, when you're thinking about what to cook for dinner, or when you're just choosing what to wear. So definitely, thinking about analogy has a big role to play in our lives. But when you're making big life decisions, try to start thinking by first principle because you don't want to just go with the flow. You don't want to just do whatever society expects you to do. You don't want to just do the default thing. If you really want to take back control of your life and be intentional about your decision making, you have to start using first principle thinking. I hope this video has been helpful. That's all from me today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like and subscribing. I'm trying to build up this community and I'll be uploading more frequently in the future. So yeah, that's all from me today and I'll see you soon. Bye.